Hi, everyone. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Camilla. It's so nice to meet both of you. I loved the film, and I wasn't sure I'd love it because I'm not like a huge Hunter S. Thompson I fanatic, and I loved the film. I loved the story. I loved the time that you captured. I really appreciated so much, and so I'm so excited to speak with you guys about it. So firstly, I always start my interviews with the question, what was your first role in the industry?
Thank you, first of all, for loving the movie and for having us on. And it's great because we put a lot of our hearts into this movie, so it's very meaningful. My first thing was a play. My dad was part of this company. Viola Spolin taught these theater games, and her son Paul Sills had a theater company, and they did oh my God, what's it called? Story theater on Broadway. And so my dad was playing with his band at the Philadelphia Folk Festival, and us kids who lived on this commune went and did in front of the audience a couple of skits from Story Theater. And when the audience, all these hippies, like thousands of hippies, start clapping at these cute little kids, and I'm wearing this 1950s little baby doll dress, and I have a little crown on my head. I'm playing this princess. And I got so shy when they started clapping, I put the dress over my head. So I was actually showing them my underwear. Like, here's my underwear. I can't see you, though. Instead, you see my underwear. So, yeah, that was my first experience.
Amazing. That's such a good first story. Love that. Camilla, how about you?
Well, mine's kind of blurred because I grew up in LA and with actor parents. Both my
Yeah.
mom and dad were aspiring actors, and my dad did commercials, and my mom auditioned for a bunch of sitcoms and TV shows. So I grew up. I mean, as early as I can remember, I was sitting in a casting room waiting for my parents to get called in, and I remember always being like, "Well, can I come in with you? Like, I want to audition too." And a funny story is that apparently I got an audition for The Gap with my dad got an audition. They're like, "Oh, your daughter's so cute. Can she come in too?" And I had this huge personality in the audition, and I was like, spirit fingers of like being all hammy. And I got the job alongside my dad, this like beautiful Gap campaign. And then we booked the job. We went to our first day of shooting, and apparently I like froze and like wouldn't move and like did this like weird thing with my mouth. And my mom said I was like, and I like wouldn't change my face, and I just got like terrible stage fright, and I was essentially unusable. But that was I mean, I remember just being around actors, seeing my parents run lines my whole life, and then I started kind of auditioning a little later in life. Technically, I got my first job when I was 19. It was a film called Death Wish, directed by Eli Roth. Starring Bruce Willis, and then I read the script and I was like in a coma for 70% of my first role. But I was really dedicated to my coma.
Yeah, that coma that you stuck with
I
it
was
and it was
yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, I
I
love
practiced.
that.
Dedicated to my coma.
I'm
I've been
Wow.
dedicated to my
preparing my
coma.
whole life to be in a coma in a
For
film.
70% of that's so good. Well, I love that. Did they have, this sounds so silly, but did they have like a backup kid? Because I'm an actor too. I was once in a commercial and they had a backup kid because
Oh
one
my
kid,
God.
I know, and I remember being like, that's so
Wow.
awful.
Well, if they did, they definitely used it because I was unusable for the Gap shoot, and I should probably apologize to them for my behavior. No, but I
No.
like growing up around actors. Patricia was around. Like we just did it at school. Any opportunity to perform, I was definitely like the only child that was like, put me in every play.
Oh, I love that so much. And I remember I actually saw you, Camilla, a few years ago. You were on a panel at the Hampton Film Festival to promote
Oh
Mickey and the
yeah,
Bear.
yeah.
And there was this really great panel for it was I think it was like like up and coming like artists because it was I think two actors and one writer.
Yes, I
Do
remember
you
it was
remember that?
Alice Hodge, and
Yes.
I'm forgetting the director right now, but I know
Right.
exactly what you're talking about.
And I really, because it was my first introduction to you, and I was going to say this story a little bit later, but it came up now. So, I was so fascinated because it was my first introduction to you, and I remember one of the questions at the end was, everyone to be asked some version of like what's upcoming for you.
Mhm.
And do you remember your response? It was a long time ago. You don't know.
No.
You looked out into the audience. It was a smaller sort of like makeshift restaurant space that they converted for this.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I remember you looked out and you're like, I know there are a lot of filmmakers out in the audience. I am open. Like, I want to hear from you. And you said it with so much focus and intention. And I just remember like, oh, she's gonna keep like this is just the beginning. Like, I just remember really feeling that. And I felt like you had this, I know this is like an old like word, but a like gumption about you. And I wanted to ask, because I see that in a lot in your work, how has that sort of form of like boldness and gumption like shaped the kinds of characters and stories you're drawn to?
I didn't even remember that, and I fear that there's a lot more stories like that out there. I mean, like I'll like see old friends or people from childhood that are like, "Oh, you don't remember like dancing on tables when we were like 11 years old at people's birthday parties?" And I'm like, "No," but I don't know. I mean, I would maybe some of it's being Latina, maybe some of it's being an only child and
Mm,
having really young parents and feeling like I was like very bold and I had to speak up for myself. And I've also been working, I was modeling at 14 years old,
yeah.
essentially full time. And so I've just been in situations where I think that I've had to learn how to find my voice, and it did not come it wasn't like it wasn't natural to me to kind of speak up for myself and be
Mm.
very brazen and bold, but something that you develop over time, I think, in the industry. I'm sure Patricia can agree, but
I think as a director, it was so refreshing to see you come in and go, I want to grow. I want to learn. I am all in. I want to get better. I care about this. I love this. I want to be the best actor I can be. I am committed, and also I'm willing to fail. These are the
Ah,
things that hold us back. When you're not willing to fail, nothing will happen for you.
yeah, I think
Nothing will happen for you.
even in the first few years of auditioning, they were all my auditions were like quite proper and like with a blue black backdrop behind me, and I was saying it word perfect. And at some point, I was like, it's not working. I'm not booking jobs. How do I get more interesting in this and maybe lose this obsession with like everything being what I think the director or the casting director wants? And I started to like kind of improv a little bit in a scene, or like wear insane makeup that's not written like that, or like bring a prop in. And maybe like it didn't work all the time, but it like freed me to like stop. And I actually started booking more when I started to do crazier, funkier things and go for it.
I
Yeah, I mean, it is, you have no, you don't, you'd go in and you do an audition and you do the best you can, but it's not really within your power to decide if you're getting the part or not. So
yeah.
you might as well go in, do the best job you can, and have fun with it.
Yeah.
Get something out of the audition experience for you,
Which I
too.
struggle with all the time. I had an audition last week that I was like, I don't know what they want, and I don't feel like I'm getting it, and I don't have context of the story. And I was like, well, I have to do it anyway, so I'm just going to make a decision, commit to trying something new, whether it's doing a different posture or using my voice differently, and use it as an exercise. And I didn't get it, but that's what you do.
I love hearing this so much because you hear all the time in this industry as an actor, like you have to make a bold choice. You have to make a specific choice. You have to make a bold choice. But it sounds so much more fun when you guys say it. But also, it sounds like it's not something you do for the sake of doing it. You do it because, this is what you're drawn to do. And even if you're wrong, even if you quote unquote fail, that's what you should do. You should just go for it anyway and like have a good time doing it. And if you don't get it,
Mm-hmm.
that's completely fine. In fact, most of the time, you don't get it. Like,
Not
it's unfortunate, but that's the case. So you might as well. But I really love how you guys put it, and I think a lot of people are going to really appreciate that sort of description and explanation of it. So
I
thank
mean,
you.
I just played a woman in a thing, the Murdoch murders, based on this, terrible situation that happened. This murder, this narcissistic psychopath who killed his wife and child. And I play a woman who doesn't really understand that. doesn't really know that. The world doesn't really know that he's a sociopath.
Mm.
And she knows there's a lot of problems with their marriage, and she knows he's self-centered, and she knows there's something wrong with him, and all these kinds of things. But also to be willing to play a normal woman and not be like showcasey, there's also something in that.
Oh yeah.
It's an endless conversation within yourself of like,
Mm.
what is true for the character? Not just a bold choice. You can't just, I'm going to razzle dazzle and I'm going to act my little pants off. Like,
Mm.
you got to serve the story and you have to serve the person of the part you're playing. And it's not always the boldest choice, you know?
I agree. And I guess that takes me to my next question, Patricia. What drew you to this particular story of Gonzo Girl? What attracted to you about this story?
I don't even know where to begin because I mean, Hunter S. Thompson for me was pivotal growing up
Yeah.
and still is to me a mind-boggling genius. Writing wise, he really did change the landscape. And so that was important to me. I grew up in the 90s. I struggled with, trying to avoid and not even be aware of whatever beauty I might have had and the impact on the world. So this kind of thread. There's a lot of different threads throughout this movie, and I didn't want to make them obvious. Like, let's talk about that and let's
Yeah.
talk about that. But I wanted you as an audience to see them and think about them, the power dynamics that were going on within these things. This
Yeah.
beauty as a commodity, beauty as competition, how celebrities discard beautiful youth one after the other, and trade up and trade off, and then now you're loved, now you're ignored. That component, the writing component, the struggling with writer's block, and what do you do with that? Or the part where he's trapped by his own celebrity for one moment, a period in his life. Like if people say to me, true romance. I love true romance, don't get me wrong. But to get trapped that that is all I can contribute. I got to do something like true romance. Everything's got to be like true romance to make money, to get love, to, be respected in the world. It becomes a real trap. So I wanted to even have that kind of a conversation of how frustrating that part of success can be when you're trapped in your own celebrity. And then also, in a way, he's this dying type of male in the world. And how is that to start seeing the world around you change? And he was the star, and now he's getting eclipsed by his, young movie star friend. Like, he's getting cast off too.
Yeah.
He's having this betrayal with her. He's an addict. She's a codependent. She's trying to earn love and be a people pleaser, and that's a disaster in the long run. When you're trying to be loved and you're judging your amount of capacity to be loved by. This movie star loves you. Up now he doesn't. This writer loves you. Up now somebody else. How precarious it is when you're a codependent and how you can end up like my character. That is the end game of codependence. You totally trade yourself off. You completely become an enabler. You're cleaning up the mess of everything, and you're just serving this unprocessed, traumatized man baby. So it's not just about, I'm not saying Hunter S. Thompson was that, because this is
No,
fiction.
I know.
It's based on him. I'm just saying addicts are, whether you're a man or a woman, you have unprocessed kid in there that is running the show half the time. That's just the way that it is. So I didn't want to say, oh, you're an addict, you're a codependent. But I wanted to show those horrific dynamics and how they come to a head, and they're always going to come to a head.
Well, I really, really appreciated that perspective. It makes me want to reread Hunter S. Thompson, and it makes me want to read Gonzo Girl. Um, but I really enjoyed, I think, the way you saw it. Like I saw a vision for this movie as you were doing it. Like I saw the close-ups of each character during specific monologues, the interweaving of, famous quotes kind of where I'm like, what's that quote? And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, okay. So like there was one I loved, a woman who cannot be ugly is not beautiful. And I was like, who said that? Because so there's this sort of love and appreciation of writing and art that's like infused within the story. And there's a very specific story you're telling, but like you said, there's all these other themes that are interwoven, and I think interwoven really well.
So
Um,
Cheryl worked for Hunter for this
yeah,
certain period of time,
right.
and she wrote a book that's fiction. So certain things are based on reality, and certain things worked for a novel to make it something people would want to read.
Yeah.
Those things didn't necessarily work for a movie, and I, in my own exploration of this codependent addict experience, wanted to delve deeper into parts, wanted to see the mutual betrayal that comes out of that, all of these things. So the ending we changed for the movie, and I felt it was more authentic. And oddly enough, that idea came from Ethan Hawke, who read it
Really?
at a certain point, and he came up with that idea, and I thought it was so brilliant. I'm not going to say what it is, if it's an important
Yeah.
plot moment, but it's funny because Hunter S. Thompson, he would write things and then make things up about political figures, about whatever. So it's like she wrote this book and then made some stuff up and made fiction. And then we took her book and then we made some fiction. And so it is definitely inspired by, inspired by, inspired by.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to make him a caricature. Like people have done that really, really
Yeah.
well. So, what if you take the essence or the inspiration of someone, but you really make them a human person where they're not a caricature? They've got pain. They are messy. They are wounded. They are embarrassing themselves. They are all the things we do as humans.
I mean, all that being said, Patricia, I was so surprised that this was your first feature you directed. I know you directed a couple episodes of Medium, which I also loved watching. But what about this show, this script, this screenplay that you were like, this is something I'm going to direct? And are you hoping to direct again? I hope you are, because I really enjoyed your version of this.
Yeah, I think it was all those things I talked about,
Yeah,
the codependence, the addiction,
yeah.
the beauty as a commodity, the needing to be loved through other people, being a people pleaser, myself, also acid, mushrooms, growing up in the 90s,
Yeah.
that exciting period of time. Um, there were so many things that really resonated for me about this
Did you
particular
did you
material.
did you envision it when you saw it, like in a way that you didn't other screenplays maybe, or because were you toying with the idea of I want to direct something, and then you saw this and you felt compelled for this to be it? How did that?
No, originally they offered this to me, and it was a different director to play Claudia, and I I wasn't quite on board with that, and Claudia wasn't going as deep into the codependent enabler aspect as I think towards the end as we ended up with.
Mm,
Like she's very far away, but I'd say, how did Ghislaine Maxwell get there?
got it.
How do you get to be, even in
Yeah.
shadows, even in small parts, how do you get to become a part of that? Why? What in you? How slowly do you start normalizing,
Yeah.
supporting somebody and their screwed up needs?
That's exactly the question I think I asked myself, which is when does this stuff become normalized for someone? At one point, it all becomes this new thing. And I think there is a line, I have to revisit this movie again because I think there was a line about like the innocent in the not so innocent. And
Yeah.
I felt a little bit of that right now, where it's just it was like when does this part of this person who keeps saying no to these things, the drugs and all this, the partying, and then all of a sudden starts saying yes, and then when does that person then becomes something different because everyone else is normalizing it. I
Well, I
think,
thought that
yeah,
was what was really interesting to me. She says no, no, yes, very quickly.
yes,
And like in the script writing world or the judgment world, you'd say, what? Why is she doing that so quickly? But in the codependent world, that's exactly what happens, and it happens very quickly. You you mind fuck yourself.
yeah,
You normalize shit yourself. You go, no, no, oh, well, maybe I could. It's okay. It's not a big deal. And it, you
yeah,
know what? I can. So that sliding over your own boundaries and him sliding over your boundaries and you sliding over his happens very quickly. And then, it comes to a head in this movie when there's mutual betrayals.
mm,
And part of the mind fuck of it all is, but wait, I thought this was my job and I thought I was supposed to
right.
take care of you and thought I had to deliver or you would be in a bad position. But on the other hand, it's also like, I know you said no and I know that this was private and I know all of this stuff. So they both are just, it's just become a messy, dirty basement full of trash, and broken bikes.
Yeah, and it becomes less, what's the word I'm looking for? Not glamorous, but like, at one point it changes and all of a sudden you take a step back from it and you're like, it doesn't look as glamorous and exciting and beautiful anymore. There was something else. You saw the trash and the dirtiness part of it as well.
Hmm.
I
When Claudia's cleaning the peacock,
Yes,
and you're
exactly.
like, and she looks at the photo and she's like, that's gonna be me if I
A
don't,
hundred
and it
percent.
happens so fast too.
100%. I could talk to you guys about this forever, but I do have to wrap this up. I do want to say one more thing because I was going to ask about it, but I'm not going to, is just the beauty of the time period that you guys captured and the looks. I loved the looks. It was a
Mm.
little bit, Camilla, like you had a little bit of like an Anne Hathaway thing going on. Like
Yeah.
it, there was definitely a beauty in it, but also a raw emotion that I felt throughout in your performance. And I really love this movie and was one of the I've seen a lot of movies at Tribeca right now. This was one of my favorites.
Oh,
So
good.
yeah.
Well,
Thank
she
you.
she talked about Anne Hathaway when she came, and
Yeah.
I almost didn't
Oh,
cast her
Yeah.
because she was so beautiful. I thought she's stunning, and then I thought, wait a minute, that's such reverse bias.
yeah.
And then there were moments in her audition where I thought really reminded me of Catherine Ross and some
Yeah.
early '70s things, and yeah, so
That's funny that you said Anne because I brought first day to the costume designer. I was like, I really like her in kind of early
Oh,
Devil Wears Prada when she's wearing kind of
that's
the
it.
jacket that
I
I
was gonna
like.
ask, that
So
was another question I was gonna ask
yeah,
about the vest and the
the
shirts. I
blazers,
was
the vest,
like,
and like the kind of straight bangs. It looks like she cut it herself. So I'm glad you felt
exactly.
that. No one's made that connection yet. So I'm happy.
Oh, I'm glad. Oh,
yeah.
no, I got that
And
right
the
away. It was like one of the
period,
first things I wrote.
the
Good.
period, like she's wearing these like '90s things. Larry's got this kind of '90s, kind of grungy, a little bit rock and roll movie star thing. But they're in Walker's world, and he's like in the '70s or in the late
Yes.
'60s. So it's like
I
when you're
forgot this was
in,
the 90s. I forgot I was watching the 90s for a second in
yeah,
that
because
world when you got
when you
when you're with
step
him.
into his world, the star dictates, the rich guy dictates, the person with power dictates what everything looks like, the music, the soundtrack, the thing, when everyone's in a good mood, when everyone's in a bad mood. Like there's this party sequence where he gets angry, and it's like he just puts a stink bomb on the whole thing. It doesn't matter. It's this huge group of people. Like, okay, what are we doing now? He's pissed off, and nobody knows what to do. It's like these volatile emotional highs and lows.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I encourage people who are listening to find it, watch it, enjoy it, love it. I will read the book now. And thank you guys so much. This has been
Thank
so
you.
lovely. And I hope you have a great
Thanks.
rest of your press day.
Thanks
Thank
so much.
you.
Thanks for having us.